You know the rules, I think.
Yes, I think so. Start off with Professor Kissling.
Thank you very much. There is a handout going around which is pertinent to the interpretation of the proposal, we believe. We commend that back in August, the resolution that you made then was a positive step in the process of attracting more people to cycle to and from work. We applaud that. But the problem we face in this particular instance, in the detail of this particular plan, is going to have swift commuter cyclists in conflict situations with pedestrians who will include those that are hard of hearing, poorly sighted, or with other physical disabilities, using a painted line and printed signs. It's contrary to good traffic management. There is a missing option. We were not, in the hearings, we were not presented with an option that apparently the council staff had considered for the commuter cycleway to be just outside the park on Hagley Avenue. That was not something that we had a chance to comment on, though we would have supported that had it been in there. We also note that the option for the 4 metre wide widening of the existing path in South Hagley Park is subject to the what you were dealing with later in this council meeting with the bylaws, the traffic and parking bylaws. We have made representations to the council on an issue there. We ask you to take that seriously into consideration. I'm not going to litigate it here now. We're really just looking at this particular shared path situation, but it is linked to the bylaws. Concerning that particular path and the shared space, my very blunt Australian professional colleagues would say blind Freddie could see that it's not good. Research and common sense indicate that the separation of traffic that travels at relatively different speeds is to be preferred where possible, rather than asking users to share the path. This is relevant when a fit-for-purpose option can be created at marginal cost as part of the intended accessible city project and in the detailed project works from Hagley Avenue. We say there's no widening needed if growth in the conventional commuter cycling, which you are looking and seeking, is accommodated nearby on its own parallel facility, just outside the Hagley Park boundary. No extra distance involved at all. I would add there's no need even to consider the future accommodation of fast-travelling electric power-assisted cycling commuters within the park area if you have such a facility out on the roadway. There's no need to increase the paved area under mature heritage trees and over their root zones, and we haven't had the benefit of an arborist's report on what the impact of that widening would be. There's no need to shift the lampposts and the standards that are there now and incur those additional costs. And pedestrians and joggers and lazy recreational cyclists can continue to coexist in relative safety. But we're not given details of the cost comparisons, nor are we given the analysis of those comparisons. We are told the outcome of the staff's assessment, and they are recommending a particular option. There's no analysis and explanation being presented publicly that I'm aware of how all park users will benefit from 4 metre wide shared path using an ever-increasing number of commuter cyclists inside Hagley Park. It will be a hard sell to pedestrians with visual and hearing disabilities. I say, and we say, it's not a future-proof solution that you are putting up. It does not accord with the Hagley Park Management Plan, despite what is said in the report, and the handout runs through the details of where we see it does not accord. There is the alternative, which we would commend be resurrected and looked at carefully. So where commuting cyclists can be protected for motorised traffic on similarly direct routes, and where commuting cyclists do not compromise the safety of slower traffic such as pedestrians and joggers, and where the intrinsic values of the park are protected into the future and the project costs can be contained, we ask you, councillors, to make a fully informed and rational decision that can command the respect of the general public. We support the thrust, generally, overall thrust of the transport network proposals. It is in these details, revealed in particular cases, that the option preferred by the council staff in this one, we see as suboptimal on a number of grounds in terms of cost, safety, and the ongoing stewardship of Hagley Park. It is not too late to alter the scheme detail, in our opinion, and we ask, why should ratepayer money be used for a safety suspect solution when a safer, equally effective, and probably cheaper option is available? And I refer now to Martin.
Right, I would actually suspect there's going to be a few questions on this, and I don't want to run out of time, particularly on the costing of it, etc. So I think I'll defer and leave it open to questions.
Thank you. Regarding your suggestion of having the cycleway out adjacent to really Hagley Avenue, so there would also, we would understand though that there'd also need to be room for a footpath alongside Hagley Avenue. So, and our understanding too is that in fact while the area around the netball courts is sufficiently wide, in fact further down there would be insufficient width.
The need for a footpath for pedestrians on that side of Hagley Avenue I question, because most of them would use inside the park as their pedestrian way. You certainly would need one on the other side of the street, on the southern side of the street, but on the northern side of Hagley Avenue, I suggest that you need crossing points, but you don't necessarily need walking parallel. You can do that in safety inside the park, just a few steps further into the park and you're on that.
Have you seen a copy of the arborist report?
No.
Okay, so I don't know, I mean, maybe it's a question of start. It was done on the 5th of November 2014, so I think that was after the public submissions had closed.
We didn't see it before the public submissions.
Okay.
We haven't seen it at all.
Haven't seen it at all.
Okay, so maybe we can ask staff to give a copy. Just in terms of, like, we've heard from pretty much, regardless of who, everyone's agreed that the current design is actually flawed in some way, I think, possibly with the exception of the first speaker that we heard. Do you think we should spend more time trying to come up with a new design? And given our financial situation, do you think that this is really a priority in terms of spending this money now to come up with a design that's
I don't see it as a priority within the greater cycling network, but I do see that you have a chance to include it in the works on the roadway itself, but you're going to be doing things out there, making a cycleway there for the commuter cyclists, who really are a different breed of people. A recreational cyclist and a commuter cyclist have completely, utterly different needs. One's heads down and tail up and cycling flat out. The other is cycling sedately, perhaps, for recreational purposes.
I mean, well, yeah, the question is, given that we just spent nearly 10 years ago hundreds of thousands putting in a commuter cycleway down Hagley Ave, do you think it's good use of our money to start going in and doing a new plan ahead of other stuff in the city that is,
No, I would say put the money in other parts that are more desperate.
Right.
Comments you want to make?
No, I just, hands off Hagley, fully support Professor Kissling in this.
Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Karina.